Brother Abari, I wish, first of all, to congratulate you for assuming the presidency of the Presidency Council for this Security Council of this month. I also would like to wish you all the best. My thanks go also to Ms. Stephanie Williams and UNSML team for all the efforts you're doing during these difficult times. And also thanks to Ambassador Schauter for his briefing on the Sanctions Committee. Before I proceed, I would like to request the Secretariat and the Presidency of the Council to really consider the issue of translation so we can be able to speak in our language in Arabic in the future sessions. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we would like to reiterate our firm position in support of all endeavors of peace, stability, and sparing of bloodshed in Libya. Moreover, I wish to remind you that we have responded positively on several occasions to calls for dialogue, reconciliation, and de-escalation, the most recent of which was the announcement of the President of the Presidency Council on 21st of August regarding the ceasefire. This announcement came from our political and national responsibility and the ongoing crisis throughout the nation and the region in general, and especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, which has started to spread widely and rapidly in Libya. If we do not address these issues and work together to find proper solutions to these challenges, all these factors will have more negative and destructive impact, threatening international peace and security. Here, it must be recalled that achieving this ceasefire requires demilitarization of Sirte and Jufra, in addition to the withdrawal of all foreign and mercenary forces from the two cities and all regions of Libya. The main objective here is to fully restore Libyan sovereignty over Libyan soil. For this end, an immediate reopening of all oil ports and fields should be enforced, as their closure was not secret, directed by foreign actors. So enough with jeopardizing the resources of Libyans, as the amount of loss to date is estimated by $9 billion, besides the severe damage to the infrastructure of oil installations and facilities. Accordingly, we would like to point out that we welcome the international and regional support for the ceasefire decision that was also supported by neighboring countries, especially those that have begun to back down from supporting the aggressor and his militias, mainly after being fully convinced of his failure and the failure of his military scheme, and they understood that a political solution is a necessity. Moreover, we welcome the statement of the political leadership in the East regarding the ceasefire and the need to resume oil production. Yet, until this moment, we did not see any response or clear position on both matters from the military groups represented by Haftar and his militias. However, this isn't the first time. Rather, hostile messages have been appeared to the surface in opposition to the peaceful statements as expressed through their spokesperson. Additionally, further violations were carried out by those forces, backed by mercenaries targeting the cities or the sites of our Libyan army forces stationed west of Sirte with Grad missiles in the past 72 hours. In another provocative step, which is expected. Hence, we still confirm our commitment to the ceasefire, but we reserve the right to respond to such acts of aggression, and we will defend ourselves against such attacks and any moves or threats at the right time and the right place. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now at a pivotal point of the Libyan crisis. While we are trying together to establish stability and peace, the specter of conflict and war still exists due to the insistence of the aggressor and his associates not to comply with the national and international will, and put an end to fighting. Therefore, the Security Council, along with the international community, must demonstrate seriousness in implementing its resolutions and activate the ceasefire and compel the other party to officially accept it. Everyone is wondering, what are the guarantees for implementing the ceasefire without repeating a similar scenario that took place before the Ghadames conference last year? What is the use of a 5+5 talks if Haftar did not announce his commitment to the ceasefire agreement? For this reason, we should not repeat the mistakes of the past, and this council must assume its responsibilities by pushing and holding those obstructing the ceasefire accountable. We did our part. It's time for you to do yours. The most common sentence I'm hearing from most of the briefings today was that 5+5 talks must resume. Oil blockade must be lifted. Ceasefire must be respected. Human rights violations must end. But what we don't hear, what if those things are not done? Who will be held accountable and how? Ladies and gentlemen, the discussion leads us to the crisis afflicting my country and the exacerbation of living and economic conditions and the proliferation of weapons due to the division, conflict, and external interventions that have lasted for years. The discussions lead us to the importance of finding comprehensive political solutions aimed at treating the root of the crisis and not deflecting or working around it. Therefore, we recall the statements made by the President of the Presidency Council on several occasions regards to the importance of expediting the organization of presidential and parliamentary elections by March 2021, according to an appropriate constitutional framework agreed upon by Libyans alone, to end the transitional stages and the state of chaos. In this regard, we reiterate that the people solely have the right to self-determination. We can't afford reproducing custom-made political bodies to fit certain individuals, neither repeating the mistakes of the past 10 years. Let's have the political sphere open to all and give the chance for all competitors to compete. We believe that in the event of full commitment of the international community and with the full support and mandate given to the United Nations and the coordination with the rest of the regional organizations, this electoral process will succeed. And we have seen many successful experiences in several countries in the world to build on. And what Ms. Williams briefed us today on the success of municipality elections is a proof and shows the eager of the people to have this process and democratic process take place. It is only then Libya will be able to end the crisis of legitimacy, unify institutions, and deal with other challenges, in particular security, economic, and basic services, and implement reconstruction projects and start the stage of development and prosperity for the Libyan people. Therefore, we call upon the United Nations to expedite the process in appointing the new UN representative, and for this council to reach consensus, because there are those who try to take advantage of this void to undermine UN efforts. We don't mind the proposals presented as assigning a special UN envoy and the head of mission. What we really care about is just to need this process to conclude quickly. And through the mission, we ask to resume immediately a comprehensive political dialogue. And most importantly, expand the participation to include, in addition to the bodies of the political agreement, the effective powers and groups on the ground, including actors across the political spectrum, regions, and social components, regardless of their affiliations and ideological orientation. Without any exclusion, as happened in previous occasions, all Libyans need to participate in such comprehensive political process. The only exception would be those who are involved in and convicted with crimes responsible of bloodshed of innocent Libyans. During this dialogue, and in addition to agreeing on the political and electoral process, discussions must take place on ending all form of foreign interventions, launching transitional justice, reparation, the return of the displaced internally and externally since 2011, all within a national reconciliation plan. And here we reaffirm the importance of involving the African Union with the presidency of South Africa in order to help with this national reconciliation plan. Ladies and gentlemen, human rights violations that have occurred and are still being carried out by outlaw militias that don't believe in democracy and call for the return of tyranny are a major factor in the state instability. Today, we are talking about all violations by any group and anywhere with no exceptions. In this context, we all remember the atrocities of these militias, starting from the war on Tripoli to the targeting of civilians through indiscriminate bombing and the use of mines and mass killing. We have all witnessed the mass graves that were discovered in the city of Tarhuna, the last of which was only found a few days ago. New criminal acts have been added. On the 26th of August, groups affiliated with Haftar's forces initiated arrests of several citizens of the Gaddafi tribe in Sirte, carried out by the so-called Tariq bin Ziyad militia, with the help of mercenaries, attacking their homes, threatening women and children, and have assassinated with cold blood Mr. Nasser Awidat al-Gaddafi in front of his house. Several other and similar arrests and kidnapping occurred in the eastern cities, along with seizing people's lands and properties. In this context, my government would like to emphasize that it will not stand idle about these or other violations anywhere, and will fulfill its duty towards its people and calls on the United Nations mission and the International Criminal Court to include these violations in their investigations and to work to stop these systematic criminal acts, which demonstrates the intention of these militias to destroy the country, sow discord, and work to prolong the crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, my government affirms its support to the right of citizens to peaceful demonstrations, guaranteed by the law and in line with the existing procedures. In this regard, the demonstrations in several Libyan cities in the past days were merely of legitimate demands, despite the attempts of distortion. On the top of these demands was the fight against corruption and the corrupt. Hence, my government affirms that its main objective is to protect these demonstrations and give them the necessary freedom of expression, and denouncing any attempts to suppress them by force. And investigations are ongoing towards reports of a number of possible suspicious arrests, and make sure they are released immediately. Meanwhile, the government will not allow the exploitation of some individuals or groups to divert these demands and rights, to create chaos and exploit them and distort them, these basic rights of civil state we aspire to. Corruption, with no doubt, has contributed to the deterioration of the economic situation and services. That's why the government is response proceeded with a number of measures to fix this matter. Most important was the decision to implement local governance by finalizing the legislative framework, delegation of local authority to municipalities, and introduce a local revenue system. All these measures are meant to improve services and support local governance and end centralized decision-making. These measures, for sure, are not enough, and there is still a long way to go. And we assure all that we won't defend the corrupt, and we ask all relevant sovereign institutions to perform their oversight role in this regard. In conclusion, and once again, we reaffirm our belief to embrace peace and reach a peaceful solution that spares the bloodshed of our people. So we call on all Libyans to set aside our differences that will only prolong the suffering of the people. Let us together end all type of foreign interferences and embrace a national will and a comprehensive national reconciliation, as this is the only way towards stability and unity and assure the sovereignty of the state. Thank you.